read this?
I do.
Okay.
All right. So I know we're a little cozy here because of the camera. And thank you for being willing to be videotaped for this. Okay, so for reading workshops so far, we started on approximately 2.5 weeks ago, and you are kicking butt. You are on your 6th book, and if you could share with me from your log the books that you've read.
I read Room by Emma Donoghue, The Scarlet Pimpernel by Amuska Orczy.
Sounds good to me.
Just Listen by Sarah Dessen, Along for the Ride, also by Sarah Dessen, Do McKee by Stephen King, and I'm currently reading Paper Towns by John Green.
Okay, and how do you go about selecting your books?
Room came by recommendation from a couple of people. They said they had read it and it was really good and they enjoyed it, and it was kind of unlike anything I have read before, so that kind of interests me. So I started with that. Then I was not sure what to read, and my sister had always loved The Scarlet Pimpernel. It's like one of those novels that she goes back and reads over and again. So,
And she's older than you, correct?
yes, she's in college. So she lent me her copy of it, and so I read it, and I really liked it. And then Just Listen and Along for the Ride were 2 books that like I had gotten for Christmas a couple years ago, and I just had never read because I do like Sarah Dessen, but sometimes I find her books to be kind of predictable, and they're like kind of the same. But I decided that I would read them, and I kind of liked them. They were okay. And then Do McKee actually came, I was babysitting, and my neighbor really loves Stephen King, and she told me that if I was like new to Stephen King that I should start with Do McKee. So I read Do McKee, and I really liked it. And then Paper Towns I started to read because actually my friend, Natalie, recommended it, and she gave it to me to start.
Now, is this your first John Green?
It is my first John Green.
Very cool. I love Do McKee. Well, I love The Room, and I love Do McKee. And I agree with you. I think Sarah Dessen is kind of like the YA Julie Picoult. It's kind of, it can get predictable, but it's nice to read something, quick and lighter once in a while. Of those books, which would you say was most challenging for you?
I think definitely Do McKee. It's a toss-up between The Scarlet Pimpernel and Do McKee, but The Scarlet Pimpernel, it was hard because it was a different time, it was during the French Revolution and everything, but I found that even the vocabulary and everything, and it wasn't too long, so it wasn't that hard. But Do McKee, it was a long book, and it was interesting, and then they threw in some words and different kind of vocabulary, specialized vocabulary that I had to look up and stuff.
And am I right that Do McKee is the one where it jumps in time too, because when he's on the island, he meets the woman that lives in the house, the big house on the island, and then it gets into her past too a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it does.
Okay, cool. So when you look at this, what do you feel if you were to branch out would be a good either new genre, a new author, something that would be...
I think that if I was to branch out, I would read something that was maybe nonfiction, because I'm not really the biggest fan of nonfiction, so my books are all fiction. But I think that if I was to branch out to read something that would be nonfiction, would be different than anything I've done.
Okay, because there's a couple types of nonfiction, especially now, that are very popular. It's actually called literary nonfiction because it actually is written well and it reads like fiction, but it's true. So they might be good choices for you. And then there's also I call it a sociological nonfiction. That's the Malcolm Gladwell books where he's very interesting. He comments on phenomenon that he sees and tries to find reasons for it. So outliers, he tries to pick out, those who excel. What makes them excel, and is it more than just they're better at it than we are? But you might find them interesting because I don't like nonfiction either, and I found those kind of interesting. I also have the book, I just got 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, what the movie was based on. So I do have that that you might want to read.
Yeah.
And do you have any interest in memoirs?
I'm really open. I'm not that picky of a reader, and I do want to expand what I do read. So I would be open to that.
I was going to say either nonfiction or something that's a classic. Might be really good. Something like a beloved classic that's well known, cultural capital, that you can read and then feel proud. Kind of like Catcher in the Rye, we talked about. You're going to hear all about it after you've read it. Same thing. In terms of classics, what's your experience with classics?
I've read Pride and Prejudice and
Oh,
stuff
goodness
like that.
gracious! And were you okay with that, or was that
That
really
was like
hard?
a little bit of a struggle because I read it like in 8th grade.
Okay.
So it was kind of, I feel like if I was to read it now, I'd get more out of it. But I also read, I started The Great Gatsby, but I was also, I think, a little too young for that, so I might want to revisit that. And I wanted to read To Kill a Mockingbird. That was actually on my list for something to start, maybe after Paper Towns.
That would be an awesome choice, especially because normally it would have been in our 11th grade curriculum, but it got moved. So
To Kill a
you won't do
Mockingbird?
it, yeah. So you won't do it in school per se. So I think that would be a great choice.
I heard it's really good.
Yeah, the first 30 pages are a little slow, but once you get through those first 30, you'll be into it and you'll be good. And what's cool is there's a lot of symbolism too, so there's some deeper things you can think about. And I know the book well, so we can, touch base about it. So my last question for you is, obviously you are racing through books, which is awesome. If we weren't doing reading workshop, would you be reading this much?
I probably currently no, because I love to read, and like when I do have time, like when I was younger and I didn't have as much schoolwork, I would read, and in my summer I read like a lot of books. But having to have it as homework and having to block out time to read really helps me like rekindle my love for reading. So without reading workshop, I don't think I would be reading as many books. I think I would be like reading one and still like trying to find time for it.
Okay.
But I really love that reading workshop is like part of homework, so it gives me the time to read.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and the camera thanks you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess.
No problem.